Mafia was developed by the Czech studio Illusion Softworks. It is a third-person action game set in a fictional US-American city called Lost Heaven, inspired by 1930s New York. It is the time of the Great Depression, the Prohibition, and famous gangsters like Al Capone. The player follows the story of Tommy Angelo, a normal taxi driver who gets involved with one of the local mafia families, the Salieris. The game starts off with Tommy Angelo meeting with Detective Norman. Tommy seems to have a problem with the Salieri family and they want his head, and he tries to negotiate a way out of the mess by revealing Don Salieri's criminal activities. The story does not tell us anything about Tommy's motives yet. Instead, the game goes into a retrospective and tells us how Tommy first got into the organization, and as the player progresses, more and more is revealed about the characters and their crooked dealings. The story introduces the player to a range of characters such as Don Salieri, the boss of the family, Paulie, Tommy's best gangster mate, his other gangster buddy Sam, and Don Morello, the evil boss of the rival family. And there are many other side characters that the player will encounter along the way. The story might seem cliché to some. It is heavily inspired by gangster and mafia fiction such as Mario Puzo's The Godfather. Mafia certainly cannot match the quality of The Godfather, but for a computer game it is remarkably engaging. It does a good job at introducing you to the concept of the Mafia. It deals with the morals of Tommy's actions and decisions and brings the game to a good conclusion to what is one of the best endings in gaming. It is not a masterpiece of storytelling and narrative, but among games it is extraordinary. The crux of the game clearly is the driving. If you like the driving, then you will most likely love the game. If you hate it, then it might become a chore. But let's not jump to conclusions too quickly and go into more detail on this aspect of the game. All cars are original designs from the time and will appeal to the nostalgic among us. There are around 50 classic models. The driving physics can be awkward. It is meant to be more realistic than the driving model of Grand Theft Auto, for instance. However, at high speeds it can feel like one is driving on soap, and very careful handling is necessary not to lose control. But for that to occur, the car has to reach such a high speed first, and here's one of the issues of the game. Even the motors have been designed to match their real-life counterparts. This means that the vehicles are slow and cumbersome. This can be frustrating and for the impatient quickly lead to outbursts of anger. Even so, the authentic design of such details is what adds to the game's atmosphere. Unfortunately, the game did not receive any licensing for the cars, so they all carry made-up names. During the game, the player can unlock and collect better and more exotic cars. Those are also faster, so the driving becomes more fun in later stages. As the player does a mission, he is able to steal cars and add them to his car park, so on the next mission, that car will become available for use. The game contains a traffic system, cable cars and a metro, as well as an army of cloned pedestrians. And of course, the police, that starts chasing you even if you commit the slightest offense, such as driving too fast or ignoring traffic lights. Considering the speed limit is about 40 miles an hour, the police can be a rather annoying feature of this game. Mafia contains many aspects of a typical sandbox genre game. It has a criminal setting, a large open city, and lots of different cars. However, the mission design is much more linear than you would expect from a game of that genre. For instance, there's no choice in what mission to tackle first, and there are no real side missions. Occasionally, after completing a mission, you get the option to steal a luxury car, but those missions are not very exciting as they do not add much to the story. At times, this lack of attractions in the city can make it seem a little sterile and lifeless. Apart from the normal missions, there's nothing that will lead you to stray off the path. Missions usually start off with the Don discussing a problem with Tommy and the other guys in a back room of Salieri's bar. Then the player walks over to Vincenzo to get a weapon and see Ralphie or the car park for a vehicle. Then the player drives across the city to the target location. The usual gangster stuff happens there, and at some point you return home to Salieri's bar. Or, alternatively, you can do one of the previously mentioned bonus missions to steal some kind of luxury car. A few of the missions follow a different structure though. There is no free saving, only predefined checkpoints. Most of the checkpoints are set fairly. All those checkpoints are saved, so you can return to any part of the game after you have completed it. There are a few points in the game that are indeed very hard, and a choke point in the middle could have eased the difficulty, but at no point is the game impossible. The mission design is diverse and leads you to many interesting locations such as Hotel Corleone, a brothel, or the docks of Lost Heaven. As mentioned, there's a lot of driving to be done, and occasionally a car chase will be part of a mission. It is rare that anything occurs to plan, so be prepared. Besides the driving, shooting and killing is the other main aspect of the game's gameplay. After all, this is a third-person shooter. There aren't many weapons in the game, and usually there's no choice. The player has to take what is given to him. There are 4 different pistols of varying strengths, 2 shotguns and a Tommy gun, and a few other weapons. Running and gunning will not work. Taking cover is essential. Tommy does not have much health, and health boxes are rare in the levels. Moreover, the guns have strong recoil, so you have to aim carefully. I should mention that the game offers the Free Ride and Free Ride Extreme mode, which are basically no story modes that enable the player to drive around the city freely. Taxi driving, shooting gangsters, buying weapons and cruising around are all that can be done. The Extreme mode gets unlocked once the game is beaten and has a few more exciting rides and challenges, but will not keep the player occupied for long. Mafia's graphics follow a realistic art style. The graphics quality was state-of-the-art at release. Even though the graphics have aged now, it is still very playable thanks to the 1930s style. Very few games have touched upon that era, so it feels pretty fresh. This game does not support graphics shaders, so do not expect any great lighting effects, post-processing or other modern graphics tricks. However, the textures have a high resolution and aim at photorealism. There are many great details around the city, such as billboards and shops. The interior of mission-related buildings tend to be very detailed and capture the atmosphere of that era very well. The cutscenes help progress the story and are generally well made. The main characters' faces are very detailed, but they lack proper facial animations. As a result, many characters show no emotion, and together with the mediocre movement animation, some scenes look very stiff. The dialogues are acceptable, but certainly not the pinnacle of writing. The voice actors sometimes seem to try too hard, but are still mostly good, and perhaps that is just right for a game.